All right, welcome back to the Here's the Deal channel. We should be live. If we are and you guys can hear me, let me just do a real quick radio check. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it sounds like I'm in a can. Of course, we got some technical issues. Can you get technical issues with that? Of course you can. Of course you can get technical issues, says Dr. Anthony Fraudsty. Ty Reviews is here. What's up, Ty? Frauditor Trolls here. Frauditor Troll says, Ty Reviews, I see Craig has been recycling old videos. You know that's against TOS and he could lose his account for that. Well, that's a gesture of goodwill. Hey, and by the way, I'm doing this video not because I'm against Mike is okay. Thanks, Frauditor Troll. I really appreciate it. I'm not the enemy of Frauditor Troll. I like CH and Ty Audits, so I would be partial. I can't even say that I'm unbiased while I do this video right here. I just think that there's some good information to be brought out, because we got to face it, mentally speaking, if the people around you are mentally immersed in cognitive dissonance, which is one of the topics that was talked about at the end of this video right here. If they're immersed in cognitive dissonance, if they've been indoctrinated to just comply and not question, that's the easy road to tyranny, guys. We might as well be the CCP. Might as well live in, let's go ahead and move to North Korea. I don't want North Korea. I don't want China here. I don't want Russia here. What we're dealing with is bad enough. We got to get rid of the, what's up, San Joaquin Valley Transparency, mandatory myositis. Brooklyn Audits here. Appreciate you guys being here. I want to spread goodwill, but I also want to sit back. It's easy to armchair quarterback, and I will be armchair quarterbacking a portion of this video right here. This comes from one of CH and Ty Audits' last live streams, not the last, but one of the last, responding to bootlickers, how automatons think. And I guess before we get started, well, you know what? No, I'm not going to segue, because I want to stay on point. I'll do that other thing that I was thinking about in another video. I want to springboard this with a quotation that is usually spuriously attributed to Thomas Jefferson. And even though I can't prove where it comes from, and it might be a combination of what Jefferson said and Ayn Rand said, I think that the fundamental precept is pretty clear. The first quote that's attributed to Thomas Jefferson is, "The two enemies of the people are criminals and government." So let us tie the second down, that's the government, with the changes of the Constitution, so that the government will not become a legalized version of the first, which is the criminals. And I think it was conflated with Ayn Rand. She said something similar. She said there are two potential violators of man's rights. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about potential and real violations of rights. And this isn't some enigmatic reality. The violation of rights equals the violation of life. If you don't have rights, if you don't have freedoms, if you can't do what you want to do, when you want to do it, wherever you want to do it, as long as you're not harming, threatening to harm, stealing somebody's stuff, damaging their property, and not compensating them for it, if you don't have those rights, you don't have life. They might as well just lock us up in a cage somewhere and throw away the key. Ayn Rand said, there are two potential violators of human rights, man's rights, the government and criminals. The great achievement of the United States was to draw a distinction between these two by forbidding the second, that is government, the legalized version of the activities of the first, that is criminals. So we don't want criminals in government. And yet, what do we have today? We have criminals in government. And what constitutes a crime? And this is the core of the issue right here. What constitutes a crime? You've created loss, injury, harm. You've threatened to harm. You violated somebody else's rights. That is what criminality is. If there is no victim, there can be no crime. You have not created a victim because you didn't do something the state told you to do. You have not created a victim because you did something the state told you not to do. If you bought, sold, transported, and possessed alcohol back in from 1920 to early 1933, you did not commit a crime. You violated the law, the statutes, the political edicts, but you didn't commit a crime. But crime did arise, because now that they tell you not to do it, of course, everybody's still going to drink. They had the speakeasies. You had the knock on the door, the secret knock, the secret handshake, so you can get in so you could drink the alcohol. Alcohol was everywhere, but then criminal activity rose because of the statutes, the regulations, the laws telling you not to do it. Now we got all these turf wars. Oh, this is my turf. I can buy, sell, transport, and possess alcohol in my area, but you can't in yours. So now the government, under the guise of keeping people safe and getting rid of alcoholism, actually created criminal activity in the land. And isn't that just like government? When they get involved in something, they make everything worse. Quality goes down, expense goes up. So we're going to listen to a couple of snippets from one particular part of this bootlickers video from CH and Ty Audits, but we're going to do this in the hopes that we can bring out some kind of logical discussion so that we can create a more free America in between your ears, in between the ears of Americans, Canadians, New Zealanders, Australians. I don't care who it is. If we become sensitized to the fact that, hey, I'm a man just like you're a man. I don't have a higher claim over the life and property of others, and you don't have the higher claim over the life and property of others. So if anybody makes a law violating our rights, then we get together and we throw that down because it's the right thing to do. And that's why they're called rights. It's the opposite of wrong. When somebody makes a policy against rights, it is wrong. It's a violation of rights. And that brings us to, for example, the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. That's just right, because it puts everybody on the same equal plane. If somebody makes a law against one of those rights, that puts them higher, a perceived higher authority over somebody else. No, that ain't true. It's a lie. All right, so let's listen to some of this. Let me know if you guys can hear system audio, okay?
So why are you not just streaming it from your same image? You don't have two monitors or something?
Yeah, and with I don't want any feedback from the mic, so
shoot, I thought I cut this part out. Sorry guys, this has nothing to do with the discussion. Hold on one second.
Yeah, all right. I'm just saying you should invest a little bit, but it's all good. Smitty, thanks so much for coming by. And,
no problem.
Yeah, sounds good, man. So
stay tuned too, because this is not the live stream I intended on having. I just saw this and I was like, wow, there's some interesting points to be had here. I'm going to do a live stream. Gosh, I was hoping it would be at 4 Central Standard Time. I'm probably have to bump that back to 5 because I wasn't expecting to do this live stream. So we're going to do a live stream on what's it called? Limited public. Hold on a second. Yeah, there's this concept called. Yeah, I want to get the terminology right because there's four sets of terminology. It's called limited public places, or there's 4 kinds of public is what the argument from the people who call the auditing community frauditors. It's traditionally public, designated public, limited public, and non-public. So that's not this video right here. We're going to do that in a separate live stream at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Hope you guys can make it. It's going to be pretty interesting. All right, here we go.
So
I wasn't prepared to really have a debate.
Yeah, thanks, SJVT. Limited public forum. Yeah, that's the term.
I was just going to come in here. I thought it was the whole thing.
No, it's all good. We're doing one by one, but yeah, thanks for
that's
coming
understandable.
by and putting
I'm not complaining. That's no problem, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. You take care.
Right, take care, man. All right, Brady and Bob for $2. Thanks so much. Craig wouldn't last.
Sorry, guys. I really thought I cut this out. I hate wasting anybody's time. All right, here, let's get to the first one. I don't think this is it. All right, here we go.
So, I mean, I can't even believe you give these guys any credibility.
I'm not giving them any credibility.
Well, some people will. Well, I wish I could make my face smaller. Sorry.
That's all good, man.
To even, like, for instance, they don't audit anything. They're not auditing anything. It's just a term they came up with at some point to give themselves a little bit of credibility. These guys, like I said in my chat, they're nothing but YouTube actors. They're out there for the attention. This guy here is talking about anarchy, which has failed every time. Never.
That could be. Let's just. I think this guy's called ICBM. But let's just say that somebody's just out there for attention. They're out there for views. They're out there for clicks to make a name for themselves on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or whatever. Let's say that. Okay, so what? Aren't you free to do that? As long as you're not harming, threatening to harm, stealing somebody's stuff, damaging their property and not paying for it. Isn't that okay? If you're not free to do that, it doesn't seem to me that you'd be in the land of the free, home of the brave.
Never, ever worked anywhere. They talk about it, but if anarchy were actually a thing, guys like me and this kid and anybody who's not a freaking warrior would be dead. So everything they say is utter nonsense, and they know exactly what they're doing. Their bullshit has nothing to do with rights or freedom. They just want to be on camera. They want to see themselves mouthing off to people. And the thing that really gets me is they know the cops can't do anything about it. They know the cops are duty bound.
They do things about it. What are you talking about? They do things about it.
Only at you have to cross a line, but they have to take your verbal abuse.
Let me just ask you, did Daniel Shaver cross a line? What line did Daniel Shaver cross in Mesa, Arizona in that La Quinta hallway when he was confronted by Philip Brailsford and his merry band of Mesa Police Department henchmen who were issuing out rapid fire threats? If you do that again, we're going to off you. Do you understand, is what they said to Philip Brailsford. Philip Brailsford was trying like crazy on camera to obey every single command that was issued to him as fast as they were shooting him out, as inebriated as he was. What line did Philip Brailsford cross? And that's just one example, guys. What line did Philando Castile cross? What line did Eric Garner cross? Oh, he was selling individual cigarettes on streets of New York. Oh, the horror. He was trying to enter into a voluntary, mutually consensual business transaction with people on the streets of New York where he was selling them individual cigarettes. Oh no, he crossed the line. And it cost all three of those guys, Philando Castile, Eric Gardner, and Daniel Shaver, it cost them their lives. There was no line that was crossed. As a matter of fact, in the case of Daniel Shaver and Philando Castile, they were in the process of obeying the cop's command, and it still didn't matter. They weren't resisting. They weren't making fun of the officer. They weren't out there with a video camera and recording when the cop told them not to. They were actually in the process of trying to obey the cop's commands. That's just one of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of examples we could give at this present time where no line had to be crossed. The cop just went off and pulled the trigger and ended a life, or took away rights, or handcuffed somebody when they were just an innocent bystander, or bashed somebody across the head. Guys, it's amazing that anybody who knows anything about what's going on or has had any exposure to the internet and YouTube and TikTok videos, that is patently false.
You can say anything you want to them. They can't, you're the kind of kid that would throw rocks at a dog on a leash because you know the dog can't get at you.
That's an ad hominem that has no place in any kind of discourse. Now, they called this a debate. I failed to see what kind of debate it was. I'm not really interested in having a debate with Fraud or Troll. I'll sit down and have a conversation with him. There are a couple questions that I'd like to ask, and I'm sure he wants to ask me questions or make assertions or whatever. But when you engage in ad hominem attacks like this, and I've done it, guys, but it has no... Launching an ad hominem during a debate or during a discourse simply shows, wow, you don't have a better argument than that? You can't use your critical thinking to reach down deep inside your cranial structure and come up with an argument that challenged their supposition? Doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense.
That's the kind of kid you would.
No, I would never. I've never, and I would never. I mean, you can ask anybody who knows me, which, I'm sure that, Ty's in the chat, on my chat. I don't know. You got Hoosier News Now, who knows me. All these people know that, I'm not really, I'm really not a bad person at all. I've never wronged anybody in my life. Like my criminal charges were all for nonviolent crimes. But look, the verbal abuse that you say that I dish out is only dished out when I receive it. Like if somebody comes around and tries to tell me what to do.
I don't know why the screen's frozen, guys. Let's see. Let me put two screens up. I think it's because I don't have a split screen here.
I'm a grown man, and no grown man is going to tell me what to do on public property and expect me to just comply like a slave. Maybe that's what you do, and I respect that, man. You can do that all you want. But as far as the First Amendment auditing community, man, all we do is go in and see if they respect our right to record in public. The Appellate Court of the United States said...
Before Craig continues on this, and I agree with a lot of what Craig says here, but before he continues, take a look at this comment right here, this Fergie, whatever, $2 super chat that was given to, I think, Fraud or Troll. Craig wouldn't last a day under anarchy. Why not? What I found interesting about this original video is if you look in the side chat and the comments that were scrolling up, James Freeman was in there, and it's almost like I was watching the video after the live stream, so I didn't get to participate in the chat. I didn't see it. It wasn't given to me as a notification. But James Freeman was responding like I was responding in my mind. They were using anarchy as though it's blood, mayhem, blood spilling in the streets, broken windows, burning tires, flipped cars. It's chaos. When you have anarchy, you have utter chaos. No, a synonym for anarchy is not chaos. A synonym for anarchy is freedom. Because anarchy simply means no rulers. If you want to ruin a society, then get all the people in society, or a vast, big percentage of them, to believe in the idea of, hey, it's okay for a certain group of people to rob and rule the rest of us. Anarchy is the exact opposite. As a matter of fact, this person who, said this thing about Craig wouldn't last one day in anarchy, and this ICBM guy, they live anarchy every single day of their lives. They got up without being told. They pressed their alarm clock, maybe hit snooze without being told. They brushed their teeth with a certain kind of toothbrush without being told what kind they should buy, and the toothpaste, and they got up and made their coffee, and they weren't told what kind of brand they should have. When you're doing something without taking heed to what somebody else tells you how it should be done, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, you're actually living as a practical anarchist. But somehow it stops right there. And then on the rest of the scale, they say, hey, we need to elect a bunch of political parasites, some of the most corrupt individuals among us, so that they can write rules or scribble words, fancy words on fancy pieces of paper, and then get them passed by their other colleagues in Congress, and then hammer that out, and then get together and call it a law, and then put the legislative pixie dust all over it and the blessings of Congress, and say, hey, now we got a new law. Now, if you do this and you cross the line, you get punished. That's the opposite of freedom. The more laws you make, the less freedoms you have, and the less money you have, because the laws serve two purposes. Laws, and I'm talking about man-made laws. I'm not talking about natural law. Man-made law serves two purposes, practically speaking, in the real world. Number one, it diminishes freedoms. And number two, it reaches deeper into your pocket and economically terrorize you, because those laws are going to cost a lot of money. And if you disobey these laws, hey, this is basically policing for profit. And the only way that these laws have any teeth is because the law enforcers decide to turn off their critical thinking, submerge themselves into cognitive dissonance, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to abandon morality, and I'm going to go toward conformity, and I'm going to do what my superiors tell me to do, and I'm going to take away people's rights and economically terrorize them through my road piracy, because that's all it is. They're state functionaries increasing the coffers of the state so that they can create more laws and take away more of your freedoms, and then it becomes a vicious circle. Such a thing does not exist in the sphere of anarchy. So people, that's one thing I wanted to bring out, is people have an embarrassingly profound misunderstanding of what anarchon means. An means without, archon means rulers or controllers. Without controllers. That's all it means. If you go beyond the etymological meaning of the actual word, then you've injected a meaning into the word that is not there. Another synonym for anarchy is voluntarism. And James Freeman was all over this, going, man, these people just don't understand the definition of anarchy. Because there are only two kinds of people in this world. There's the statist, who wants to be robbed and ruled by others, and wants you to be robbed and ruled, and will go to the voting booth and cast their vote of support for their guy, their team, red or blue, to rob and rule the rest of you. Anarchists go, my moral compass, my internal working, my internal moral compass prohibits me from requesting that another human being rob and rule me or my family or anybody in my neighborhood or anybody in my community or anybody in my world. It's very simple.
That it is a First Amendment right to record employees that are public employees in their public capacity. I think it was the 6th District Appellate Court of the United States that said that. So if you don't like the system, that's fine, man. I'm fine with that. I don't like the system either, brother. The system's bad.
But that's not what you do, and you know it. You elicit a response.
That's what I do.
You intentionally elicit a response. You intentionally antagonize people.
I go into buildings all the time where I don't get any response.
So there's a little pause here, but let me take this pause real quick just to mention you antagonize people. If walking in the fullness of your rights and engaging in constitutionally protected activity, and yeah, I think some people, push the envelope on that. For example, if you go to a private business and you're just kind of creeping around outside the window, of course you're free to do that, but why are you doing it? If you're in a public building exercising your constitutional right that's supposed to be protected, whether you call it a limited rights or not, are limited rights real rights? And if limited rights are real rights and somebody has the power to limit your rights, aren't you basically saying somebody has the right to limit your rights? And if those people have the power to limit your rights, where did that power come from when you don't have it? If you don't have it and 100 of your buddies don't have it, how can you all get together and go to the voting booth and confer a right that you don't have onto somebody else? It's all a very bizarre scenario to me, and it's based on fiction. Like Bastiat said, the state or the government or government agencies are that great fiction by which everyone seeks to live at the expense of everybody else. Government in and of itself is parasitic. It doesn't create anything, and the things that it gives to other people, it has to steal from others in order to make that resource or monetary gain available to others.
I've only seen one or two of your videos. I make sure that anytime I watch one of these so-called auditor videos, I do it on a different, like on a platform like Auditor Troll or something like that, so you don't make any money off it.
Yeah. That's fine, man. That's fine. You won't get the whole story, though. You certainly won't get the whole story.
The whole. If you call yourself journalists, why don't we ever see a real journalist doing anything like what you do? They don't insert.
What do you mean a real journalist?
What do you mean a real journalist? And I love this because I love to hear people talk, because when you talk and you verbalize and those words come out of your mouth, those words are vehicles of thoughts that are in your mind and ideas that are in your heart. So when this guy says a real journalist, and I love the fact that C.A. Craig here, he puts this guy in the spot and says, what do you mean a real journalist? What constitutes in your mind a real journalist? Are there credentials? Is there a certain amount of educational background that they have to have? Do they have to have a 4-year degree? Do they have to have a master's degree, a PhD? Do they have to work for a mainstream media outlet? Is that what makes a real journalist?
You mean like the guys on CNN?
Yeah, like people that actually are journalists. And
yeah.
But the thing is,
the reason you don't see them.
This guy literally said, and this is how shallow the well is here. And I'm not making fun of this guy. I do find it funny. But if you don't know by now that the Counterfeit News Network is exactly that, counterfeit, and MSDNC, I saw an episode yesterday. I just turned on Jakey the Snake Tapper for, I don't know, it's less than 3 minutes. And in that period of time, 3 times he had already said how much he's for the Democratic Party. That's not news. When you have biased journalism, you don't have news. Because you got somebody promoting an agenda or a narrative or an idea. If somebody's out there promoting that, they're not really interested in the truth. They're just interested in getting out what their corporate masters tell you to get out as you become the teleprompter reading idiot collecting $250,000, $300,000, $1 million a year, whatever your paycheck is. So the fact that this guy actually believes, and he mentally assented to and verbally assented to the fact that he believes that CNN is real journalism, and you're not a real journalist unless you belong to one of these networks. That's a snap. For Auditor Troll, do you really believe that if you belong to CNN, that constitutes real journalism? Guys, all I have to do is know that they promoted the weapons of mass destruction lie, which led us into trillions of dollars, and increasing the coffers of the military-industrial complex, deepening the pockets of the defense contractors, costing tens of thousands of American lives, costing millions and millions of civilian casualties their lives, all because of a lie that, so-and-so had weapons of mass destruction, says the corporate news outlet that works as the propaganda arm for the military-industrial complex, who definitely has weapons of mass destruction. It's laughable, it's hypocritical, it's inconsistent.
Stuff like this is because they're fake news, dude. Like even Fox is fake news. Like CNN, Fox, and MSNBC.
Look at this guy rolling his eyes at the prospect of Fox News, CNN, MSLSD, ABC, CBS being fake news is an eye roll to this guy. Just recently, in the last 2 years, remember when ABC put out this news article that said, it's the Syrian slaughter, and it showed this imagery. It was horrible imagery of all these rockets being fired and missiles going off and just fireworks and bombs and all that kind of stuff. Well, it turns out it was a Kentucky gun range. It wasn't the Syrian slaughter. And then they had to retract it. But that's one more example of how they get it wrong. How come they never applied more and more and get deeper and deeper into the Ghislaine Maxwell Black Book of Jeffrey Epstein? Why is it they major in the minors and they minor in the majors? Oh, there's a reason for that.
CNBC, it's all fake. Nothing on there is actually relevant. It's all just stuff to get people stirred up and watching, which is pretty much, I mean, it's what you say we do, but we're just the same. Like, I run stories on people and I don't get paid for it at all. There's a story I ran recently, there were two actually. There was a story on For Public Safety. His wife's back got broken by police, and I didn't get monetized on that. And then there was another one that I posted recently. A boy got stopped for a traffic stop and was tased.
Sorry, doesn't mean that you don't get a green sign. You're still making money. You're still getting views. That's still helping your channel.
Hey, look, maybe I made $5 from YouTube Premium revenue. Yeah, but that doesn't.
I don't want to monopolize. I want to let someone else in. So just let me say one other thing about this.
Take your time. Take your time.
When you do what you do, it's an act, and you're an excellent actor because you haven't broken character yet, which is admirable, I guess. But
now, that's so interesting. It's another example of majoring in the minors. It's an act. Yeah, but what am I acting? What am I doing wrong? How am I violating the Constitution in my act, as you say? How am I coming against the freedoms of my fellow Americans as I act? What is it exactly? Who am I harming? What loss, injury, or harm am I committing against my fellow man? That's the true question.
But the thing about not telling people what to do, that is so immature and adolescent. And what you don't understand, or what you refuse to accept, because I know you understand it, but what you refuse to accept is that police officers have responsibilities. They don't just tell you what to do for nothing. Cops don't arrest people for nothing. That's
they do.
Utter bullshit.
They absolutely do.
If you think that a cop is going to walk up to somebody and just arrest him for no reason and do all the paperwork and all the bullshit that's got to go with it, then you're more naive. Yeah, okay.
No, your cognitive dissonance goes far. Look, you should watch Lackluster. Just dropped a video 5 days ago of a guy carrying a firearm. He asked the private.
Did you hear what the guy just said? Listen to this again.
And just arrest him for no reason and do all the paper.
Here we go.
If you think that a cop is going to walk up to somebody and just arrest him for no reason and do all the paperwork and all the bullshit that's got to go with it, then you're more naive. Yeah, okay.
No,
so he's calling Craig naive. If you think a cop is just going to walk up to you and arrest you for no reason, guys, that happens all the time. That's why we have auditing channels. My first audit, I didn't even know it was going to be an audit. I wasn't even on YouTube at the time, but I started recording, is when they hassled us in Missouri, which is a constitutional carry state, because somebody called on me and my daughters because we were all, packing heat. So you're packing heat. First of all, the 911 operator should have been trained going, this is a constitutional carry state. You don't even need a license in the state of Missouri. Second of all, even if the 911 operator did dispatch a cop, the cop should have said, I'll respond to the call, but it's a constitutional carry state. Everybody is encouraged to carry firearms here. And then when the cop comes on the scene, he doesn't have any problem attempting to violate mine and my daughter's rights by saying, hey, I need to see an ID. Well, why do you need to see an ID, officer? Because I'm engaged in a constitutionally protected activity that's even looked at by your state constitution as something that I have a natural right to do. There's absolutely, when a cop requests your ID, he's saying, hey, I am here to make you insecure in your person. I want you to identify yourself. I want your name to go in our logbook and into our database as an encounter with the police officer. He had zero reason. As a matter of fact, he had every reason to pat me on the back and go, hey, good job for exercising your rights. I wish more people would do it, but he did the exact opposite. And that's just one small example, a micro example on the macro scale of rights that are violated by cops every single day for no reason.
Your cognitive dissonance goes far. Look, you should watch Lackluster just dropped a video 5 days ago of a guy carrying a firearm.
And that is cognitive dissonance, because what is the definition? Because we like to throw around these words. I'm not saying Craig is doing this, but a lot of times people use words that they don't know what it means. But what is cognitive dissonance? It's when you're trying to hold two contradictory ideas in your mind at the same time, and you're actually giving assent to both of them at the same time when they contradict each other. You cannot say, like I heard Frauditor Troll say on this live stream right here that he's for the Second Amendment, but then he said something later that, suggested that some gun laws are good. If you believe some gun laws are good, but then you also say that you believe in the Second Amendment, which means shall not be infringed, and a law is the very definition of an infringement, you have cognitive dissonance going on. You're either for the Second Amendment or you're not. You're either for shall not be infringed or you're not. You can't be for shall not be infringed and for background checks, for example. You can't be for shall not be infringed and be for magazine capacity restriction or, gun safety regulation to save the children. It's one or the other. But cognitive dissonance, the cognitively dissonant, try to grab onto both of them, and they try to keep both of them at the same time. And then the cognitive dissonance within them has to pacify their mind and quell their anxieties by convincing themselves that both, even though they're mutually exclusive and diametrically opposed, can somehow complement each other. And they can't. They just can't. That is cognitive dissonance.
You asked the private property owner if they cared for, what were their rules on firearms. I guess it was a manager. The guy said he didn't know. The cops got called. The guy complied with everything that they said.
Ruben Durantes says, so you're saying anyone should carry a gun, even criminals? Guys, I view cops as criminals. Let's take the gun away, Ruben. Let's just take the gun away and let's just get down to brass tacks. Because I appreciate, that's why I go live, because I want to, I don't want to be in my own echo chamber, lobbing my own ideas off the wall so they can come back to me and affirmed, give me this positive feedback loop. But let's just take away the uniform. Let's take away the badge. Let's take away the supposed authority of the state. And let's say that you're just a regular guy doing what cops do. Everybody in society would view you as the criminal you are. But now that those same exact actions, put a uniform on it, put a badge, put a utility belt, come with the authority of the state. And all of a sudden, because people were indoctrinated with their 15,000 hour public fool indoctrination program, they see this individual as something other than human. Oh, they can do that. Oh, they can get away with the criminal activity. Well, it's not criminal activity. And like Frauditor Troll said in the video with Big Wes, it's not stealing, it's seizure. It's not kidnapping, it's arrest. Well, that's just engaging in the game of politics and political correctness and euphemisms. And politics is nothing more, nothing less than the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people into accepting and even demanding the chains of their own enslavement as they get them to agree with the evil of statism. So, Ruben, just to answer your question, you're saying that that anyone carrying a gun, anyone should carry a gun, even criminals? Cops carry guns all the time, and other people aren't allowed to carry guns, and cops are the preeminent criminals among us. And if you think I'm wrong, then you tell me what would happen to you if you did to Botham Jean what Amber Geiger did, and tell me you would only get 10 years and get off on probation this year. You tell me that. Amber Geiger in Texas walked into another man's domain, saying that she thought it was hers, opened fire on him, and ended his life as he sat on the couch eating ice cream watching a movie in the safety of his own home. She only got 10 years, and she's going to be out this year. That means she hasn't even been in for 18 months yet, 24 months max. You did that, especially if you did it to a cop. Oh, get this. If you interfered with the cop trying to abuse somebody else, you would go to prison even though you were the good guy. You were actually there to stop the evil. That's the cognitive dissonance veil that people have. They're Ziploc bagged into it, man. So I hope that answered your question, Ruben. If you have an argument against that, I would really like to hear it.
And then the cops ran up and arrested him. The charges got dropped the next day. And this happens all the time. The charges get dropped the next day all the time. Yes, they do arrest people for no reason.
That doesn't mean the cops didn't arrest him for nothing. That is not what that is.
What do you call somebody who gets arrested for weed dealing? What do you call that?
If it's illegal in their state, it's illegal in their state. If you got a problem with it, then you go change the law.
And here is the core of the issue. This is what I wanted to drill down to in this particular video. This is an order follower. They don't care about what is right. They just care what the law is. And most laws are wrong. Most laws are a violation of the rights. Most laws are evil, wicked, and downright cruel. This is what I want to get down to. Listen to Craig's question here and listen to the response by ICBM. I guess his YouTube handle is ICBM Catcher.
That doesn't mean the cops didn't arrest him for nothing. That is not what that is.
What do you call somebody who gets arrested for weed dealing? What do you call that?
If it's illegal in their state, it's illegal in their state. If you got a problem with it, then you go change the law.
What did they do though? What was it that they did that was wrong?
Being arrested for having weed?
No, for yeah, I mean that or weed dealing. Yeah, either one.
Okay,
what did they do that was wrong?
Let me make it even more ridiculous. If it somehow got to be against the law to wear a yellow shirt on Tuesdays, and you got arrested for wearing a yellow shirt on Tuesday, then that's just how it is. That's what the law is.
Yeah. Yes. No, I get you, man.
Did you hear what he said? If it was against the law to wear a yellow shirt on Tuesdays, it's against the law. And if you wear a yellow shirt on Tuesdays, you deserve to be violated by the state. You deserve to have your rights infringed upon. What is it when evil becomes law, resistance becomes duty? I can't remember the exact quote. When evil happens and it's legalized, when plunder is legalized and then they call it taxation, it's still theft. When violence and kidnapping and murders and caging people against their will and arresting them without crimes being committed, that right there is something that everybody needs to resist. So if it ever became a law that it's illegal for people to wear yellow shirts on Tuesday, it is incumbent upon a free people to wear yellow shirts every Tuesday. When the British put a slight, in our context, relatively speaking, put a slight tax on the tea, he would have complied and said, it's just a tax on tea. Let's roll over. Let's comply. Let's lick some more boots. But the colonists said, that ain't going to happen on my watch. And I don't care what happens. I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. It stops with me. I'm not living on my knees. I will die on my feet before I live on my knees. But this guy said, oh, give me all the boots I'll eat every single one of them before the day is over. I'll only wear a yellow shirt on other days. I will comply with the law not to wear yellow shirts on Tuesdays. It is the obligation. It is the duty of every moral agent, every individual, to not do what the authority tells them to do. In my opinion. But that tells you where he's at. That tells you the depth and the thickness and the viscosity of his cognitive dissonance. And man, it's so thick you could pour it upside down and it ain't going anywhere. It's embedded like concrete.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to change the law, then change the law.
No, it's
yeah. If Patrick says if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they don't want to hear.
No, don't even act like you just got, hey, man, I don't like this. Let me just change it. It's not that simple, man. We fought a whole revolution. I get that maybe back in the 1760s, you probably
I like what Patrick said. Again, those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves.
would have been one of the loyalists, right? It is how it is. King George taxes us and we don't get representation. That's fine, man. That's how it is. But the more sane people amongst us realize that's not right, right? Sometimes you have to fight for your freedom, and sometimes there has to be martyrs.
That's what freedom's all about. What does Jefferson say? From time to time, that tree of liberty, it's got to be refreshed. And you know what it's got to be refreshed by, and I can't say it on a live stream. You know what liberty has to be refreshed by. Why? Because there's always somebody somewhere plotting and scheming and conspiring to take away more of your rights and reach their hands deeper into your pocket. And you can't tolerate it, not for a second. Not for 1 second. I don't care what legislative pixie dust you sprinkle on some legislative bill to say that a person can't do something that is neither here nor there, or he's got a perfect right to do it anyway because he's a free moral agent. Nonsense. When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes what? Duty. Not a suggestion, a duty. I got to do this or we die. I got to do this or, it's 1939 all over again and they're collecting all of our guns after the Reichstag fire decree. Nope, not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Freedom. And the people that go out and do what I do, that's what we are. I'm not putting on an act. You can ask anybody that knows me. This is me. Like, I actually believe in anarchism. I study, I listen to seminars from professors at the Mises Institute. I've read Murray Rothbard's Man, Economy, and State. I've read, Tom Wood's 33 Things They Don't Want You to Know About American History. I've read a whole lot of stuff regarding anarchism and written by anarchists, and a lot of economic books as well, like Peter Lynch's How to One Up Wall Street and Peter Schiff's How an Economy Grows and How It Crashes. I've read into this stuff, and this is what's made me believe this stuff. But the fact that you just say, well, it is how it is, and that's how it is.
And I would just make a little correction on Craig here is it's not a belief. These aren't beliefs. This is knowing. I know it's wrong to violate your free will. I know that it's wrong to violate your consent. And if anybody violates your consent, they're criminals. That's what rape is. That's what murder is. That's what theft is. Somebody somewhere violated that person's consent, and those evil things happen to them. And just as you're repulsed and disgusted with the crimes of rape, murder, and theft, you should be similarly disgusted with anybody who's going to make any law to take away your rights, to tell you what you can't do, or to tell you what you should do. And if you don't do it, you cross that line, you're going to be punished. Because that's what statism is, guys. Statism believes that other people have the right to do things that you don't have to do. You can't do. Statism is the idea that an individual has the right to do things where if you did the exact same thing, everybody would know for a fact you were a criminal. That's why what Craig is dealing with here, that's why what Frauded or Troll is actually accepting as fact. That's why this ICBM guy, him saying this thing, take you away. Does anybody really believe that's right? Isn't it time to break the fallacy and illusion of statism? I think it is.
That just shows. Look, I'm not here trying to convince you that you're wrong or anything. I'm just showing my viewers right now the cognitive dissonance of the people that believe the things that you believe. Like, it can be as wrong as saying that it's illegal.
Wait a minute. I have to say something. You learned that word 2 days ago in your live stream, and now you're obsessed with it.
No.
Yeah, one of your viewers said that.
Yeah, there's a podcast from me. It's from 2019 called Hard Money with Craig. It's on Spotify. It's still out there. Now, I admit my voice is terrible in it. I sound like, I'm really trying to be a know-it-all guy. But the whole thing is that, I've been using big words. Look, nobody knows the words I know. Nobody says I have the best words. I have the best words. And anybody
at least that made me laugh.
They're fake.
That made me laugh. All right. So any closing remarks, ICBM?
Yeah. Let me just say something else about laws and whatnot. Laws don't just fall out of the sky. Before anything becomes a law, I'm sure you know the process and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So by the time a law becomes a law, it's been debated and discussed, and dissenters have the whole thing. So by the time a law is a law, you are nobody that's going to just decide, well, it doesn't apply to me, or I don't have to do that. And if you do want to do that, if you really were serious about what you would do, you would get arrested and you would fight it out in court where you can really make a difference. But you try to fight it out with the cops so you can make an impression on YouTube.
So if you break the corporate entity's law, you can fight it out in the corporate entity's court after you've been thrown in prison by the corporate entity's law enforcers. That's an interesting way of looking at it. See, that's not how our country came about. Our country came about by a bunch of common people who got sick of other people not leaving them alone. That's really what it amounted to. Who got sick of being bled from their time and laboring energies, the product of their time and laboring energies, through taxation without representation. They were trying to railroad into some kind of central banking scheme when they wanted their own sound, honest money. That's what Jefferson fought against his entire life. And that's where we are now as of 1913. We have a dishonest money system that is actually funding these law enforcement agencies, federal, state, and local, that's funding Washington's District of Criminals, that's funding the creation of all these laws, which kind of do drop from the sky. Oh, they get to talk about them. And like Nazi Pelosi said, well, in order to find out what's in it, you got to pass it first. Oh, okay, Nazi. Well, we'll just take your word for it that you have our best interest at heart. And now we have hundreds of gun laws when you only needed one. The Second Amendment shall not be infringed. That's enough for me. You mean you think that common people should have ICBMs and cruise missiles and Tomahawks and Patriots and tanks in their yard? You think they should have fully automatic firearms? I think we should infringe, because that's what people are saying when you want a regulation on something when the Constitution says shall not be infringed. A regulation, an ordinance, a policy, a limitation, no matter the reasons. Oh, this is for safety. This is for the safety of the masses. This is for the general welfare. I don't care what your reason is. It's still an infringement, and shall not be infringed still means shall not be infringed. That sounds dangerous, but who's going to be able to afford an ICBM? Who's going to be able to afford a Tomahawk? Last I looked, the Tomahawk was $1.4 to $1.7 million. You really going to have one? And who are you going to shoot it at? And then if you shoot it, are you going to be responsible for all the damage when it creates collateral damage? The free market has a way of edging those people out of society without welcoming in tyranny. And besides that, even if it was that dangerous, wouldn't you rather have dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery? Under dangerous freedom, you would keep 100% of everything you went to work to feed your family and provide clothing and shelter and food and all that. You'd be able to keep 100%. 0% would go to Washington's District of Criminals so that they could give boatloads of information, of palletized $100 bills to Ukraine or to Israel or to Afghanistan or to Saudi Arabia. Your dollar would actually be worth something. It would actually be backed by gold. It'd be backed by silver. It'd be backed by precious metals instead of the word of the Federal Reserve. So yeah, give me dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery any day. And if that means that people that I don't think should have guns, go for it. I'll have some too.
I've been arrested and sat in a cell when I didn't need to. I could have apologized to the judge any time during my 5-day sentence.
Who said anything about apologizing?
This is what I'm telling you, that I sat in jail and I didn't apologize, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make a difference. But either way, man, laws are supposed to be passed constitutionally, which doesn't mean the process. It means they have to be passed in line with the Bill of Rights. So basically, when any gun law is passed, it's passed in violation of the Second Amendment. When any search and seizure law is passed that requires somebody not to have a warrant from a court, that's in violation of the Fourth Amendment. And all of these, what is it called? Eminent domain laws, they're illegal, because the property owner is the only person who can really dictate what is a just compensation for their property. And the Fifth Amendment says that if the government's going to take it, you have to be justly compensated. So all of these laws are unconstitutional. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
So two things on that. First of all, when those laws were first proposed, I think we can be fairly certain that someone challenged their constitutional quality, their constitutionality of those laws. Somebody smarter than you, smarter than me, and that's how laws get passed. And then the second thing is, if you think they're illegal, then bring some charges, file a complaint. Let's if they're illegal, you're claiming they're illegal. Let's see you have a court agree with you, because
All
they
right,
won't,
man.
because you're.
No, that's fine. Look, so I'll tell you, like, I get it, man. You think that the government is going to make the right decision. I do want to point out, this is not my main point, but you said that people that are smarter than me and you are making the decisions. Dude, Joe Biden's been in the Senate ever since, I think it's the 70s. So I don't want to think about that. But let's check this out. So the Bill of Rights.
After this point, Craig, I'm going to have to move on to someone else. But
well, I've got to make this point, though.
Yeah, make your point,
if
and
not,
then I'll.
It's not a debate. It's just him saying.
No, for sure. I'll make your point, then he'll do a closing remark, and then we'll move on to the next guest.
Okay. So for about, I'd say 2 decades.
Before Craig goes on with the Alien and Sedition Act, which is really a good point, I just want to kind of hone in on what Craig was saying here, and I want to encapsulate it with Mark Twain's quote of, "In the beginning of a change, a patriot is a scarce man, and brave and hated and scorned. When his cause succeeds, the timid, the cowardly join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot." What Craig just said there was, when illegality visits your door in the name of morality and legality, when criminality presents itself as something that's official, authoritative, and it stands against individual rights, it is incumbent on a man who has a moral compass. He will stand against it. He's not one of those people that go, "Well, I should stand against this." He's like, why wouldn't I stand against this? It should be as natural as breathing. Fighting for rights should be as natural and voluntary as breathing. It's like, why wouldn't I do? How could you expect me to do anything else but fight for something that is stupid and tyrannical and oppressive and expensive? I don't understand with what the perspective that ICBM and For Auditor Troll is coming from, because it looks to me like it's like, here's a boot, lick it. And then if you have a problem licking the boot, then go fight it in court and explain to them why you shouldn't be licking it. And go explain to Congress, who made a law saying if you don't lick it, you're going to be punished. Fight to overturn those laws. But the moral man, a man with a conscience, because this is what this is about. This isn't about legality and illegality. This is about right versus wrong. This is about morality versus immorality. This is about life and death. When the boot comes down and they say lick it, you say, well, pick what you would say. It can be colorful if you want. I know what some of you would say out there. I'd be like, hey, it's just not going to happen. It ain't happening. I'm not licking the boot. And I'm not bowing down. You know why? Because I got children, and those children have children, and those children will one day have children, and I wouldn't want them bowing down either, because that's how you become North Korea. That's how you become China. That's how you institute a social credit score. That's how we've got the Federal Reserve and the IRS, by people just going, okay, it's only 2% of our income. Okay, it's only 5% now. It's only 10%. Oh, it's only 35% now if you're in this income bracket. And then they just keep boiling the frog and boiling the frog and boiling the frog, when if from day one the frog decided, I'm not going to be boiled, I'm not going to be dropped in the pot, I'm not going to willfully go silently into the night, then we wouldn't have what we're dealing with right now. Imagine if the people in 1913 knew what was going on and they said, I don't care. And it was real crafty what the bankers did. The bankers actually created a campaign against themselves so that the people would see you got to fight against the bankers. You got to fight against the Federal Reserve. They said, fight against the Federal Reserve Act. This is just going to empower the bankers. The bankers were creating the propaganda telling the people that you got to fight against the Federal Reserve Act. And guess what they did? They did exactly what the social engineers for the bankers said that they would do. And they fought for the Federal Reserve Act, thinking it would be against the bankers, when it was the bankers the whole time that was funding the propaganda saying fight against it. And they didn't. Oh, the bankers want us to fight against the Federal Reserve Act, do they? They must understand the danger of the Federal Reserve for them, and the power that the Federal Reserve is going to give the people. You got to be careful, man. You've got to be careful. The deception is thick. The cognitive dissonance of the masses is real. And it's easier to deceive the masses than to convince them that they've ever been deceived. And that's how we get to this point right here. In the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man and brave and hated and scorned. I hate that guy. He's not going to wear his yellow shirt on Tuesday, ICBM says. He's going to go out there with a camera, thinking that he can hold public servants accountable for their actions. He thinks he can record the police. And then when his cause succeeds, the cowardly and the timid and the bootlickers join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. It's the people on the front lines you should really respect if they're doing things that are in accordance with what is right. If you guys disagree with that, I want to know. Let me read some real quick super chats, and then we'll get to the rest of what Craig was talking about, because he brings up the Alien and Sedition Acts. Let me get back to this page, make sure everything's... Let's see. Oh, yeah, here we go. So Brooklyn Audit says, here's the deal. Would love to do a live with you, and also, if possible, our brother... I support you both, SJVT. So Brooklyn Audit wants to do a live stream with SJVT and myself. Yeah, sounds good, man. We just got to pencil down a date. Pink Tights, thanks for the gift and the $10 super chat. Cody Edwards drops 20. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Guys, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. Brian, as always, I love and appreciate you, brother. People like you keep that small flicker of flame of hope for humanity. Check out the Bastards of Politics. Josh is another auditor uncovering the evil in our town, and it's bad. The Bastards of Politics. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thanks, Cody. Gil Gordon drops $2 or 2 pounds and says, swapped a red coat for a blue jacket. Exercising Freedom says dangerous freedom over peaceful is greater than peaceful slavery. Mr. Psyop says one of these frauditor channels is related to We the People Tyrant Wars, who has created websites in my legal name and posted pictures of my children before soliciting their info to one of my local child R a bad word. Michigan Constitutional Auditor drops $10 and says every citizen should be able to purchase anything our government has. Just small correction there, Constitutional Auditor, because citizen is a denizen of a city, which means you're bound by the rules, laws, edicts, and policies. And I'm not trying to nitpick. I just do want to clarify. You're not a citizen. You're not a citizen. You're not a denizen of the city. You're not a subject of the crown. You are a human being. You're a man. You're a woman. And if we keep it, see, that's the thing is, legalese and politics really convolutes and muddles the water of clarity. It's really clear. I'm a man. You're a man. You're a woman. You're a woman. I don't have a higher claim over your property than you, and vice versa. And if I start coming against your will, if I start violating your consent, I'm the criminal. I'm clearly the bad one. And I need to be taken care of by a just society. When justice against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the hearts of the sons of men are fully set in them to do evil. If there's no barrier to your evil, if you're going to look the other way because this guy's got a clown costume on and a tin badge, that's another thing that government does. Government demeans and dehumanizes and demoralizes you into thinking that immorality is okay as long as the government does it. It's hogwash. It's literal make-believe. It is literal unicorn, pixie dust, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny fantasy land. Ty Review says, thanks for covering this, man. Hey, no problem, man. Let me finish. Michigan Constitutional Crusader says, a man should be able to purchase anything our government has. In order to be able to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government, we should all be able to be just as well armed as the Second Amendment says. And I say, amen. I said, amen. Amen to that. So let me finish this here.
After the Constitution was passed, there were new members of Congress, but generally it was how it is today. There were no term limits, so a lot of people kept getting reelected. So the constitutional, or sorry, I should say the Senate and the Congress, right? They were just basically, they were containing the same members as the people who passed the Constitution, more or less. Like, there were a lot of them.
In other words, Congress made up the same people, a large portion of the same people, and this is true, as the people who passed the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. These are the same people. That's the point. And the reason he's making this point is because...
So the Constitution was passed in, I think it was 1780 or 1770 something, 1780 something. But the Bill of Rights was passed December 15th, 1791. Now, it wasn't even a decade after. Now, look, it was, yeah, I did, because I don't know this stuff off the top of my head. I don't think you guys did either. But, so.
Isn't it amazing that this guy is shaking his head because Craig doesn't have the streamlined facts? He's shaking his head at that, but he will not shake his head at a law enforcement officer routinely. Like, that's your job as a law enforcement officer, not to serve and protect, but to harass and collect. He won't shake his head at that, but he'll shake his head because Craig is having, some problems, conveying dates and congressional positions and all that kind of stuff. It's just crazy what people will shake their heads at. But on the other scale, what the massive theft and fraud and coercion and force and brutality that they'll accept and applaud and demand, even demand.
Not even a decade after that, 1798 there was a law passed called the Alien and Sedition Act. Now, this got through the same Congress that passed the Bill of Rights. It got through the same president that was in, I very well may be wrong, but John Adams, I think, was a representative for Virginia when the Revolutionary War was going on. And the Alien and Sedition Acts were a series of laws that basically said if you speak in a seditious way about the Congress or the President of the United States, you could be jailed in a federal prison for up to 2 years or fined a fine of $2,000, which back then was closer to $100,000 nowadays.
But you know who you could speak against? Even though the Sedition Act was passed, do you know who you couldn't speak against? The Adams administration. You couldn't speak against the Congress because they would call that misinformation. And that leads to the modern day question of, what is hate speech? What is misinformation? What is disinformation? Who gets to define that? And who gets to ban people from the open square of public debate because you labeled something disinformation? Oh, that's right. The fact checkers get to define what disinformation and misinformation is. But back then they had the same amount of they had the same kind of fact checkers. You cannot speak against the Adams administration or Congress, but you know who you can speak against? You can speak against Thomas Jefferson, who was the vice president. He just wasn't, he was a political opponent of Adams. Isn't that crazy? You're a political opponent of the guy who's the president of the United States, and you happen to be a vice president. So if you made a malicious statement about the federal government, that is Congress or the Adams administration, you could be fined and imprisoned, and often were. But if you spoke against Thomas Jefferson, you were okay. That was fine. That's not misinformation. That's how crazy the Sedition Act was. See, there were 4 parts to the Alien Sedition Act. If I remember right, let me see if I can. It was the Naturalization Act, the Alien Friends Act, the Alien Enemies Act, and the Sedition Act. That's another reason why when you have a bill that's trying to be forced into a law, have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Don't have 1, 2, 3, and 4 in one thing. Adams, who was against the censorship and was for free speech, signed a decidedly anti-free speech piece of legislation that actually became a law. And the Sedition Act actually lasted for 2 years. And they enforced it a lot. So Craig's point here is the very people who were for the Bill of Rights, namely the First Amendment right to freedom of speech and freedom of press, was the same guy, Adams, who signed into law something that would violate free speech and free press. So don't take comfort in somebody who did something good a couple years ago and expect that they're going to continue to do good things today, especially when they grab the ring of power, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Always has, and it always will.
So yeah, but Craig, there's just one thing. Sorry,
Congress,
there's like 7 people waiting. Just get to your point, man.
Yeah. No. Listen, just because something's made it through the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court never knocked this law down, the Congress ratified it as a constitutional law, and the president signed off on it. He didn't veto it. Just because all those things happen doesn't mean a law hasn't been passed in violation of the Bill of Rights. This is clearly a restriction on free speech, and that is clearly a violation of the Constitution. So just because the judges uphold it, man, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It just means that they're bad judges, right?
All right.
Well, I just like to leave you with that, man. Nice talking to you, brother. Have a good day.
All right. Well, ICBM, any closing remarks?
I can't remember what the closing remarks are, but this will be interesting. Let's see.
Anyways, let's just.
Well, yeah, I'll be brief. I'll be brief. Again, you're characterizing it to support your own weird point, but what happens with those things is that someone will challenge that and say it's unconstitutional, and it gets to court, and then they look at it again. It's happened many times. They've repealed lots of.
It never did. This was the law that was in.
I'm familiar with the alien. I'm familiar with the Alien Sedition Act. I know exactly.
Right, then you'll know that it stayed lawful all the way up until Jefferson's term.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you are no one to determine what's constitutional and what's not.
Is that true? Is that really true? You are no one to determine what's constitutional or not. So what is he saying here? He's saying statism is a thing, and there are people who really can determine, but you can't. There are humans that walk among us that can make these determinations, they can make these changes, they can make these policies, they can rearrange and amend amendments, but you cannot. So there are people on this planet that have power that you don't have. The question is, where does this power come from? Oh, it comes from the people, they say. Wait a second. Let's see. Does Craig have this power? No, he doesn't. Does SJVT have this power? No, he doesn't. Does Frauditor Troll have this power? No. Do I have this power? No. So if we each individually do not have this power, and we get 1 million people on our side who individually don't have this power, how can we who don't have this power confer a power that we don't personally possess onto somebody else? It's magic. Just believe us. And that's what it is. It's a construct of belief. This is a powerful superstition. This is a global superstition, and we got to break it, because if we don't break it, what ends up happening is a World War II scenario, a World War I scenario, a Korean War scenario, a Vietnam, a North Korea, a Chinese scenario, the heavy oppression and iron fist of Russia in Ukraine scenario. That's what happens. But if people start waking up and they go, you know what? The buck stops with me. The buck stops with every individual, and we need to sensitize ourselves to morality. We need to sensitize ourselves to and become acquainted with anarchy. No rulers. I don't want rulers, because once you give one of us rulers, then they start making policies, and then our rights start going away. And then pretty soon we're working and they're tapping into our time and laboring energies, which equals a slavery situation.
You're no one to do that. You're just some kid with a YouTube channel.
Yeah, George Washington said at the Constitutional Convention that he said that this document is not that which needs to be interpreted by legal scholars. This is a document that can be interpreted by the common man.
All right, I'm gonna have to cut it off here.
Time is up.
Okay, so that's where it ends. So I'll also say with Thomas Jefferson, the government is not eloquence. It's not reason. It's force. It's coercion. It's brutality. It's violence. It's theft. It's not eloquence. It's not reason. It's not logic. It's not reality. It's criminality. And that's why I wanted to do this video right here. In the video that we're going to have at 5 o'clock, the live stream, I really hope you can become a part of it, because we're going to talk about a limited public forum. A limited public forum is basically the springboard by which these people who call it the auditing community, the frauditing community, operate off of. It's their bedrock. They're basically making a distinction between traditionally public and limited public forum, and it gives them the excuse and the justification to violate the First Amendment, or at least let the controllers and the rulers and the enforcers violate us. And it's perfect. They're perfectly fine with it. So, guys, I appreciate you joining. I thank you very much for the super chats and the support. I will be back here at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time if you want to talk. I'll try to open it more on the room, and I'll try to get a scrolling, the scrolling chat on the side, so we can kind of engage more and take questions maybe from the audience. Because I don't like to do a monologue. It's just that it's more efficient. You know what I mean? So I will see you guys in the next live stream. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to CH and Ty Audits. And I think Ty Reviews is in here. And, let them know what you think. And you know what I'll also do? I will also put the video. Here's the link to CH and Ty Audits video, so you can look at this whole thing. Because there is one other part of this live stream from CH and Ty Audits, which was Oh man, this is 6 months ago. For some reason, I thought this was 6 days ago. All right, that's why I missed it. There's another part to this that I think is absolutely germane to liberty versus tyranny, or freedom versus slavery, because that's what we're really talking about here. So that link is in the chat. Visit CH and Ty Audits. If you do, let them know High Impact Flicks / Grease Monkey Videos / Here's the Deal / whatever sent you. And thanks back, Shamil. Dark Hotto is bullying you. Dark Hotto is bullying me. All right, guys, I'll see you at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's in 1 hour. Holy cow. I got to get my act together. All right, guys, take care. See you in the next one.